I'm Lawrence.
I'm Nick.
Welcome to the Nick and Lawrence Show. We've got some exciting things for you, and we'll be right back after the break.
All right, welcome back, and we're happy to be back. And if you remember from our last episode, we talked about Lawrence's trip to Disneyland, covered a few little things kind of about that trip, talked to his nephew, and just went over Disneyland in our last episode. And on this episode, we're going to continue the Disneyland theme, but we're going to take it across to the Atlantic Ocean, and we're going to talk about Disneyland Paris, because I went there. And I just got back from a 2-week vacation. And I don't know if I'd call it a vacation, because we were on the go every day. A lot of walking around, a lot of different things. So it was more of a trip, and there was a lot of things to see, lots of sights. Not enough time actually to see all this stuff. So, but fortunately, since we had our last day there on our trip in Paris, we took the time to go to Disneyland Paris, and it was fun. And so before we jump into it, I just wanted to say bonjour.
Bonjour. Unfortunately, I wasn't there, but Nick will probably Photoshop me into the pictures.
No, Lawrence wasn't on the trip, so when I say we, I mean my girlfriend and I, and we were on a vacation.
And a few other Frenchmen.
Yeah, and a bunch of French people and lots of tourists. But we were on vacation with some of her family, and on the last day it was just the two of us, my girlfriend and I. So we went to Disneyland in Paris, and it was cool. So
I think what you were saying before we taped was what we'll do for you guys who are watching this, as we're going to compare my trip from the last time we talked about Disneyland, and what we're going to do is he'll talk about his trip and stuff, and I think that's where we're going to go with this, so you guys don't get confused and be like, okay, this is Nick and Lawrence show, but you went up to Paris and...
Yeah, Lawrence went to the actual Disneyland about a month ago, and I went to the foreign Disneyland, one of the 6, I think there's 6, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so there's 6 Disneylands in the world. You have the one in Anaheim, you have Disney World in Florida.
You have Disney Tokyo and Disneyland Paris, and you have...
Singapore.
Singapore.
Right? Is it?
No, it's Disneyland Tokyo.
What?
It's Disneyland Tokyo.
No, there's another, is it?
Oh, maybe there is. Oh, you're right, there is another.
There's 2 in China.
Two of them, yeah.
Well, Tokyo's Japan.
Tokyo's Japan, but you have Singapore, which
is the newest one, I think.
And then you also have a resort kind of Disneyland that's in the Hawaiian Islands.
Oh, the Alani Resort.
Yeah, Alani Resort.
Yeah. So just a few little things that I learned about the Disneyland in Paris are that it was opened in 1992, and I was surprised that it opened that long ago. I mean, I guess I don't really pay attention to the other Disneylands in the world, but it's called Disneyland Paris, and it's laid out very similar to the Disneyland in Anaheim. And so what was cool was it's laid out like the Disneyland in Anaheim in a lot of ways, but it also is different because it's like French. So all the signs for all the rides are in French as much as they can. Like there's some rides that are actually, the name of the ride is in French, but I have to translate to determine what the actual names of the rides are. But they have a lot of the similar rides that most of the Disneyland parks do. And when you walk in under the Disneyland Hotel. So they have the hotel right in front, and you walk kind of through these like archways to go through, and you give your tickets and all that, and then the entrance is behind that, and it says Disneyland Paris on the sign on the top, and then you walk through and you basically come into Main Street. And so it's like when you go to Disneyland in Anaheim, you walk through the gates, and then you see the train station and the flower bed, and then you walk around under the the bridge,
Yeah, the
and
two little tunnels.
then you're in the park. And so this is very similar. So when you get in there, you have like Main Street, you have like the entrance with the round square. I mean, not square, but the round like center of the beginning of Main Street, and then you have City Hall on one side, and then you have some other shops. And unfortunately, the train was closed when we were there, so we didn't get to go on it. But Main Street is just straight down the middle in the front. I don't know. I'd have to look to see like the shops and if they're similar or if they're different to the ones on Main Street in Anaheim. But it's pretty much the same. You walk through and you see the castle in the background. And the one main difference that you'll notice when you go in is you don't have the statue in the middle right before the castle of Walt and Mickey.
Right.
And so I believe they have that statue in their other park, because like Disneyland Anaheim, they have a similar park like California Adventure, and it's called Walt Disney Studios. And so that's like a separate park you'd have to pay to get in separately. But that's where they have Tower of Terror, and they have a Ratatouille ride.
So they pretty much have a similar to Anaheim formula, where it's California Adventure on one side.
And it's like Hollywood Studios.
Or I guess it's an in-between of Anaheim and Disney World, because Disney World, of course, has what was formerly MGM and now is probably Hollywood Studios. I think the name they're given for the Florida park, for all the other parks and stuff. So that would make sense that they would have two parks in that sense.
Yeah. So we didn't get to go to the other one because we only bought the one park ticket, but they did have other rides there. Not as much, and there wasn't as many things to do in that park, but it was more of that's where the animation studio is. You can go and look at the drawings and stuff, and that's where like all the Hollywood stuff is. So if you wanted to see the Marvel characters and stuff like that,
see Marvel and do one ride and do the Terror Tour and pretty much.
Yeah,
so it's pretty much a California Adventure, just that they've named it a movie, which is what California Adventure is. There's very limited rides in California. It's more of the, you get to learn about how Walt created stuff in the 1920s anyways.
Yeah. So it's very similar to that. And the castle is different, and I'll show you a photo here, but the castle looks, you can see that it looks a little different than Sleeping Beauty's castle in Anaheim.
I'm looking at one thing from this castle, and I'm going to tell you that there ain't no tarp in it, no strings, as they do in Pinocchio.
Yeah.
We've got a tarp at the Anaheim one, and who knows when our Anaheim castle. So Nick got to see a nice Sleeping Beauty castle without a tarp on it.
Yeah. This Sleeping Beauty's castle, and I'll have to look to see what the actual differences are, but you can tell that there's differences. They're both Sleeping Beauty's castle, but this one actually seems a little taller, and it's not as wide, and so it's laid out a little different. I believe it's probably the same look and feel, and unfortunately we didn't stay until park closing to see the fireworks show that they do, but they do like a Frozen themed fireworks show, so that's very similar. And the main difference, I guess, is the way that all the little lands are laid out. And so they've got it kind of similarly placed to where you have Fantasyland behind the castle, and then you have Tomorrowland on the right side if you're walking in, on the right side. And then they have Adventureland, but then they also have Frontierland on the left. And some of the main differences that they have in Paris that they don't have in Anaheim are they have, we walked past a sign that said Discoveryland, and it was kind of closed. I don't know if they're building something, making something, but they have a place called Discoveryland, and then they have in Adventureland, I believe it was, they have a whole Aladdin's like, what would you call, marketplace with all like the the buildings and stuff, so it looks like Agrabah, and they have kind of a little Aladdin walkthrough where you can see some little Aladdin miniatures of the movie, and they have a few different restaurants. Actually, pretty much all the restaurants are different. They have similar themes, like the Pirates of the Pirates of the Caribbean. Caribbean, yeah. Caribbean, however you want to say it. But the Pirates of the Caribbean ride has the Blue Bayou kind of restaurant in it.
Right.
But the way that you enter is different. Like, to go into the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland Paris, you pretty much are underground. Like, you're in these tunnels and, like wooden kind of covered mine walkways the whole way up until you get to the ride. And then once you get to the ride, that's not until you get to the ride can you see the restaurant. And so the restaurant's underground, and the ride doesn't go past it as much as it does in Anaheim, so it's a little different. And I think the name of the restaurant's called Captain Jack's, and so it's not in the Blue Bayou, but it's very similar. And then the Pirates of the Caribbean ride was the same. They have the same animatronics, you know, and then the Space Mountain is called Hyperspace Mountain.
Right. Well, that's what it is in Anaheim too. So
they changed it to Hyperspace Mountain.
That's what it's called.
Oh, that's what it's always been called.
Well, more recently.
Oh, more recently, yeah.
I think when Paris does something, then Disneyland will do. You know, it's They're gonna follow most of the themes. So right now, Space Mountain is, I think, depending on where you go, is Hyperspace Mountain. I think that's what the Disney resorts are calling it.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. So that's the same, and it was the same setup. They have Buzz Lightyear's laser blasters in Tomorrowland, and they have the Orbiter. And I know they changed it in Anaheim for the submarine. They changed it to the Finding Nemo, but they still have it as the old submarine ride in the Paris one.
So is it Nemo or is it?
No, it's like the Nautilus.
Okay, so you really do feel it's like the old version
that we grew up with. That
we grew up with the kids. So, okay, so that sounds like they haven't changed or updated it since like you said, the park opened in '92.
So they haven't changed that one. And they have Autopia, but it was closed, so I couldn't go on that one. And then they have Star Tours, which is the same.
Right.
And they had, I didn't get to go on it because we just were doing things and it closed at 7:30, but they have the riverboat. And so they don't call it Mark Twain's riverboat, they call it...
So they do have a big steam
they have the big ship, but it's called I think it's called Thunder Mountain Riverboat Cruise or something.
They probably take it off of the Thunder Mountain Railroad if that's there as well. So.
Yeah, they have the Thunder Mountain Railroad. And then the Indiana Jones ride, it was actually a roller coaster. Okay. And so it wasn't really a ride where you're getting
in the cars and stuff, which is a class.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's not like that. But they had... it's funny because a lot of the things haven't been updated, which is interesting. Like the Swiss Family Robinson tree, which is Tarzan now in Disneyland. The one in Paris is still the Swiss Family Robinson tree.
So I guess if we need to go to an original layout of a Disney park, we have to really go to put the money in and go to Paris and speak some.
Yeah. And if you have an opportunity to go to the original in Anaheim, definitely go there. But if you're local to Europe, go to the one in Paris. You walk in and you're at Disneyland. Like you'll feel like you're at Disneyland.
Probably feel like
regardless.
The original one.
Yeah, well, because they have all the same kind of tricks and things to make you feel happy. Like they have the music playing everywhere.
And the
smells. Yeah, you walk in and it's like, oh, I'm home. Even though everything's in French, but luckily everybody that worked there spoke French and English and probably a few other languages too. All the signs were in French.
Everybody there who lives in that area anyway.
Yeah, I mean, because it's Disneyland, so it's American. Obviously, it's an American company. You
have to realize that prior to 1983, the only two parks were Florida and Anaheim, but even prior to 71, the only park was the Anaheim Park, which you could, when you watch old footage of the Disneyland show with Walt, you will actually see a lot of the Asians, you'll see French people, you see all people who went to come to that park. So all the way up to about 71, people were going to one park in Anaheim anyway.
Well, and that's a big vacation. like if you're coming from all over the world to go to Disneyland in California. So that's a big trip, but that's nice for people to be able to go to the Disneyland in Paris because it, like if you live in France, and depending on where you live, it's only going to be unless you live farther away in like the border of France, it's only going to be a couple hours, depending on where you are. Like it's only 30 minutes from Paris, and it's just outside, and they actually have a lot of land, so they have a lot of room to expand if they want to. So who knows, maybe they'll get a Star Wars land, when
if they feel like
they
may just keep it to Walt's original park of somebody.
I don't know what the
story of the history.
I didn't really have time to look up the history of it because we just got back yesterday, from the date that we're recording this, and so it was cool though to just be around. There were a few people there that were American. You could tell that they were from America, but pretty much everybody else was somebody from Europe, like French people obviously, and there were people from Russia and the surrounding countries, Spain and people from England were all going there on their vacations, and it was cool to just be around everybody that was just enjoying all the Disneyland experiences. And the restaurants were, and I don't know if this is just something they don't do in Europe, but they didn't have any churros or corn dogs.
Well, it's probably Mexican stuff anyway, and a hot dog is an American thing. So
they had a hot dog. They had a hot dog restaurant where it was just like a baseball themed restaurant with hot dogs, but they had no churro stands and they had no corn dog stands. Well,
it probably makes sense. Now, I would imagine because they're in France and they're probably not too far from Germany that they would have had some sort of a Wiener Schnitzel or something to that effect.
It was weird, actually. I mean, not weird in a bad way, but most of the restaurants, like the menus were all the same, and it was kind of different from if you've experienced eating food at Disneyland Anaheim. They had a lot of chicken and fish. Okay. And then they had some nicer restaurants where you had to sit down, and they had like steak and stuff. And in Frontierland, they had like some cheeseburgers and hamburgers and barbecue. And then they had a restaurant, Lion King themed restaurant called Hakuna Matata. Okay. I don't know. I didn't look at the menu to see what kind of food they had.
No worries. Just eat the bugs that are on the menu. They probably did have. They probably had escargot.
Yeah, they might have.
That would be very Lion King established for Disneyland Paris.
Yeah. That would have been interesting to see if they did. But they had Coca-Cola. They had water. They had pretty much all of the same, similar things that they had. A lot of Americanized things still, and even like the announcements when you were on the rides, they would be in French, but then they'd also be in English. So like when we were standing in line for Star Tours, the robots and stuff would be talking about whatever in French, but then they'd also do it in English. And then when we were in like the Buzz Lightyear ride, Buzz Lightyear would be speaking French, but then he'd also talk in English, so that was weird.
Obviously, Lotso must have switched Buzz to French mode instead of Spanish, like he did.
Yeah, exactly. He was French mode.
Trying to imagine CPO. Well, R2D2 is going to be R2D2, but I'm trying to figure out, and the Wookiees are probably talking in their normal language, but trying to picture CP3O.
Yeah, other than that, they had It's a Small World, of course.
Okay. And I'm sure they started with that in French and then moved on to the English.
Yeah.
Like, finally!
Yeah,
English.
they had the whole song throughout the ride was in French. It's a Small World was in French.
Until you got to the American section.
Yeah, well, the American section was at the very end. And it was kind of cool to see, how they do the stereotypes of each country, really. And then they get to America, and you look at the stereotypes of America in France. They had the Golden Gate Bridge. They had the Statue of Liberty. They had like the little dolls were dressed up as like they had Native Americans and they had cowboys and they had baseball and football.
Right.
And so
it makes sense if you were putting Walt's little tradition, because Walt would have definitely said, okay, what was popular, especially in the 50s, would have been baseball, cowboys, and Native Americans. Anyway, so those three actually probably fit into It's a Small World from our, perspective.
But what was cool was hearing the other people on the ride with us kind of reacting to the ride because they weren't American. And so they were like seeing America, like, oh, look, it's America, and that was kind of cool just to see other people that live in other countries react to like our culture and our iconic places and stuff like that.
Right.
But I think my favorite part was the souvenir shopping.
Okay.
Yeah, so we went they had a lot. They had all the little souvenirs everywhere. They had shops, they had little stands in all the different areas, and they had a lot of cool stuff that only in Paris. And all the merchandise and all the little stores, like all the tags say Disneyland Paris.
Right.
And so it's all like exclusive to Disneyland Paris.
Well, I think that's in general how it is for every park you go to is very exclusive. Now I've learned that Disney World is not as
because like Disneyland and Disney World, the stuff says Disney Parks on it.
well.
For the most part.
On the last shirt, if you remember from our last video, I had a green Mickey Mouse shirt, and so mine literally had the picture of Mickey Mouse, similar to what I'm wearing here, but it was a green one, and then more recently, they've actually put the word Disneyland on the shirt. So when you go into downtown Disney, or you go into any of California Adventure or the Disneyland park itself, any Mickey Mouse shirt that you're going to have is going to have the Disneyland logo on it. It's kind of like we bought a Sleeping Beauty castle that we thought we could get online. It was this really cool toy that cost an arm and a leg to get, but it was one of those things that was only for Disneyland. I'm sure it might be, depending on how Paris does their thing, they're going to have their things that are...
Well, I mean, like, for example,
like
my shirt, this they didn't actually have a lot of shirts. We looked throughout the whole park, and they didn't have a lot of. They had shirts but they didn't have a big variety like our Disneyland has.
Yeah.
But they had the little gift shops after each ride. So they had like a Toy Story one. They had a Star Wars one, like themed, where they had all the stuff in there. After you get off the ride, you go into the gift shop right away once you get off the ride.
Right.
So they had all those. Scattered about the park, but then they also had like the generic souvenir stores in the shops, but they didn't have a lot of like big selection of shirts. So I found this one like almost at the very end when we were leaving. There was like the shop in the very front of Main Street, and so I thought it was cool because it's just simple, and it says Disneyland Paris on it, and it has Mickey and Goofy, and it's kind of got the Paris theme with all the different monuments and stuff in Paris, and it has Disneyland mixed in there. So you got Sleeping Beauty's castle,
Space Mountain,
Hyperspace Mountain.
For Nick and I, we're still trying to get on that one. But,
and then the like Notre Dame and the Eiffel Tower and some stuff in Paris. So I thought it was cool, but.
And of course, you saw other things besides Disneyland. You saw from pictures I saw, you did Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Yeah,
and some really
we went to other places. Not to get off too off topic, because we're talking about Disney and nostalgia and stuff. But
with this shirt, I can pretty much show you the place. I'm sure that
we went to most of these places, but we also visited, which I was very fortunate to be able to visit. The other places we went to on our trip, like we went to Italy and we went to Barcelona, so I got to see Leaning Tower of Pisa. Went to Rome and some other spots, and got to explore Paris before, like in the beginning of the trip, and then we flew out of Paris. So the day before, that's why we went to Disneyland. So
figured you'd end your whole European trip with the happiest place on earth.
I mean, I couldn't be.
Paris.
We were 30 minutes away from Disneyland. And it's like I couldn't go all the way halfway across the world and not go to a Disneyland that's like 30 minutes away. And so luckily, our tickets actually weren't that bad. I found they had a discount website, like a third-party website. And I'll leave the link in the description if you're going to be visiting Disneyland Paris anytime soon. They had a great discount, and the tickets they have multiple options to buy tickets, but the tickets that we bought came with a fast pass, and so you were able to get the fast pass when you were there, and then we got a 1-day ticket, and since we went on Monday, it was a little cheaper, but we ended up, it was like 49 euros per ticket. And so that's like, I think it was like after like international fee and stuff, because I bought it online, it was $121 for 2 tickets for one park. And so that's like $60 a ticket. That's cheaper than you're ever going to get in California.
Right now, I think that when you really translate it into the 120, I think that's pretty much what one ticket. well, that's one ticket per person.
Yeah.
To the park and to the people here, including ourselves. I'm sure we're looking at that like that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But when you look at it the other way, when you go in and doing the euro or the pace, however you go across our world, you think it's a lot cheaper because you're not processing. Oh, it's really this much.
Yeah, well, no, it was good that it was a little cheaper. So so we were able to go.
1-day park for 121, the same it is here.
Well, that's for 2 people.
Oh,
yeah.
See,
that 121 was for two people.
2 people is really 1 person here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so that's why it was cheaper, and it wasn't as busy, and maybe because it was a Monday, and also because it's Disneyland Paris, so it's not going to be the same experience.
So was it crowded or?
Well, the only thing that we had to wait in line, we actually got a fast pass for Peter Pan's flight.
Okay.
Because it doesn't matter where you go, that's always the busiest. That's always the longest line.
Whoever designed it tried to base it off of Wallace original, and then you think, it's the slowest ride in the park.
And so without the fast pass, that ride throughout the day consistently was 55-minute wait all day. And the only other one that had a long wait, I can't remember. I think there was another one that had like a 45-minute wait, but everything else was like 15 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes. We stood in line for, I think the longest line we stood in was for Pirates of the Caribbean ride, and that was maybe 30 minutes. Yeah. And it just might have been because it wasn't a busy day. But before we wrap up, because we could go on, I could keep talking about it. But
I think we could both talk about our little parks and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think you brought.
But I did bring some souvenirs, and if you've ever been to I don't know if they do it in Florida, but definitely in the original Disneyland Anaheim, pretty much at every gift shop or every store throughout the park, they have little souvenir penny machines where you can get souvenir pennies for 50 cents. You put a penny in and it flattens it and it puts a picture of something Disney on the penny, and so that's kind of something that you actually can collect throughout the park because they actually sell a little book to put your pennies in, your souvenir pennies, and it's kind of fun where you're just kind of going around the park and finding where the penny machines are to get your souvenir pennies and try to collect them all. But we didn't find any in Paris, and I think maybe because they don't really have pennies. They have change. They have 1 cent, 2 cent, 5 cent, 10 cent, 20 cent, and we found in Italy there was a place we went where they had a souvenir penny machine, and it wasn't a penny. You used a 5 cent euro. Whatever they call it, and I think you had to pay €1 to flatten it, and it flattened pretty much the same size. Their 5 cents are like our 1 cent size, and so it flattened it. But they didn't have anything like that at the park in Disneyland Paris. But on our way out, we found a machine that gave us these souvenir coins, and they actually had one of these machines in at the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. So I got one of those too. But in Disneyland, they had these machines that it doesn't flatten anything. You just put €2 in and it gives you a coin. And so on the back it says just some like France on it, and it says some other things, 2018. And then on the front it says Mouse Party, Disneyland Paris, world's biggest mouse party, Disneyland Paris. And then that was their theme. I saw a lot of stuff on clearance that they were trying to get rid of at the souvenir stores, but I think Mouse Party was what they called Mickey's birthday celebration. Yeah, his 90th celebration. And so this one has Mouse Party on it. You probably won't be able to see that, and then I got one that just says Disneyland Paris with a picture of Mickey, and looks like he's actually holding Sleeping Beauty's castle.
Or he's probably in front.
Yeah, no, it looks like he's holding it. He's dressed like Fantasia Mickey.
Oh, okay.
But that's that one. And then the third one we found was Mickey and Minnie taking a selfie in front of the Eiffel Tower, and that one's pretty cool. And so that one's Disneyland Paris. And then I got a magnet and some other things, and the shirt obviously. But I got this for Lawrence.
Okay.
So open it up.
Okay.
We'll end on that.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, while I'm opening that, I did get a new phone case we can actually show it.
Yeah.
Well, he went to the other side of the world. I just went through Amazon and
so
got
Lawrence got a new phone case and a phone.
New phone case, so it's a new Mickey Mouse.
But I got this for Lawrence because I thought it was cool.
Cool. Mickey Mouse with the little comic strips on it.
And L for Lawrence. And then on the inside,
Disneyland Paris.
Yep. And so Lawrence drinks coffee in the morning.
Like I do.
And he loves his mugs, so there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I think that's about all the time we have for today, and
on
we'll
that
have some other adventures and stuff, and I think we'll find something that we've done more of like a 3-parter thing on Disneyland, so I think we'll go on to some new topic the week after next.
Yep. We'll come up with something new for you guys. Yep. But until next time, I'm Nick.
I'm Lawrence.
And we'll see you later.